Welcome to the Water Guys podcast. My name is Louis Borges. Joining me as always, my good friend and co-host, Mr. Shane McCarthy.
Hello, good sir. How are you?
We're doing fantastic. We've got a friend with us today. We've got Clayton Diebert. He's going to come on and discuss his podcast. He also has similar interests to us: hydrogen, gut health, ways of taking technology and turning things like water into therapeutic medicine. So let's get him on the show here. Our good friend, Mr. Clayton Diebert.
Hello, hello.
Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you. That was a pump up. Like I almost felt like I was getting ready for a hype up spin class into that intro. That intro is great.
We don't fool around. We're ready to go right out the gate.
One speed, hair straight back. Let's go.
That's right. We're 100 miles an hour standing still, and that's how we like it. So tell us a little bit about yourself and the type of show you do and the topics you discuss.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I have what is now called the Truth Performance Podcast. It started as a brain baby that I had like 2 years ago where, I decided I wanted to move to Mexico and I was going to start a YouTube channel and I was just going to talk about whatever I wanted to talk about. I had enough things that I could talk about that I was interested in where I figured it could make something interesting. And eventually, it would find its lane and find its path and turn into something bigger. I unfortunately got stuck in a cycle of analysis by paralysis and comparison and watching what other people were doing. And I didn't know how to start. So it took me 2 years of living in Mexico before I actually started it. Put myself in a less favorable position to get going on it. But I started it with A Day with Clay and just started talking about literally the fear that I was going through starting the whole journey, starting the podcast, starting recording myself talking and just getting my thoughts out into the world. And it very quickly turned into kind of creating a bit of an ecosystem all around performance and optimization and, just that whole conversation of all these different areas of life. How are people finding to optimize that area of their life to make their life and make them perform at a higher capacity? So that's kind of where that came from. And then obviously with the truth side, there's objective truth. There's truth that people hold for themselves and people that they can discover what is true for them and what actually makes them function better for their own personal selves, like the Whoop strap. That's what it's all about. It's about unlocking your potential by finding what habits and stuff work for you. So yeah, it's all around performance and finding people's truths.
It's hard to find good info out there. And you mentioned analysis paralysis, and that's quite common, especially in the hydrogen world, where you've got 1,000 products. Everybody's claiming to be the only one that does this, or they're the best, and they don't necessarily give you the goods on their product, but rather, like, you'll see a lot of these reels where they're showing like Gary Brecka talking about, the benefits of hydrogen. Those statistics are correct, but the product they're advertising may not make any sufficient amounts of hydrogen. So it's, you could be getting correct information, but it doesn't mean that product does what that speaker is saying. And Shane, you have your entire business based on educating people on what is what do we know for certain, what is kind of gray area, and then all the liberties that other companies take, especially in the water ionizer world too, right?
Oh, absolutely. I can't tell you how many people will say, oh yeah, I've started looking into water filtration, even just the filtration aspect of it. It's like, and there's so many different things out there. And so many times what happens is like they ended up, there's so much information out there that they don't know where to look. So they don't end up doing anything for themselves. And it's like that doesn't help anyone. Right. And so that's why I have, made a career over helping people, helping debunk alkaline myths and understanding the importance of what you're investing in when it comes to your water and then your family's health and whatnot, and understanding the benefits of hydrogen and how that is going and how it's evolved and what's new there. But at the end of the day, it is about educating people. It's about having these conversations so that we can get different perspectives, different truths and just evolve and grow.
Yeah. The what you said, you made emphasis on sorting through the noise and all the information that's out there, and especially within the water world, like that is so prevalent. But I mean, I see it with diet and nutrition, I see it with movement and exercise and training, where like people are taking one side of a piece of information and just relying on that as if it's their religion and not looking at anything else. And they stick to the guns ablazing with everything, and they get so defensive and they're like so attached, like, show me the science. It's like, well, your science isn't really that great if you're looking at who's funding the studies, where the conflict of interest are, following the money behind the scenes. It's like, well, okay, let's find the truth. That's what I mean. Like, let's find the truth, and then let's find what works best for us. Because like going through the rabbit holes of water, as I'm sure you both damn well know, there is a lot of information. There's a lot of BS. And when I first got into the industry from a money making side of it, I say that because I bought a Kangen machine at one point, but I never signed up to do it. I just bought it for my own sake, and then I ended up discovering the whole hydrogen bottle scene and wanted to be involved, and did the whole drop shipping thing with that for a while. But then it got to the point where I'm like, okay, like I'm digging for more information. I'm creating videos and like informing people and educating people, and I don't have all the answers on my product. Like, this doesn't quite feel right.
Yeah.
And so, it was just another white label product that 18 other people were selling, all at different prices with different websites. And it wasn't quite landing.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of these products are manufactured by people that either don't know the full story, they're just making it to fill a niche, or they're unable to communicate that to you. And, I take care of the development of the products on our end, and I've had, difficulty getting the goods from 9 out of 10 suppliers. Most of them are making a product. They're all kind of programmed with, these are the benefits, this is how you sell it. But it doesn't really explain to people, like, is this unique? Is it, delivering therapeutic levels of things? Has it been third-party tested? So when you ask even some of the manufacturers of these products high-end questions, sometimes they don't even know themselves. So I think it goes back to learning how to do proper research. If you're in college and you're, just quoting things off of Google, you may have an assignment not go very well because they're going to say, well, you didn't correctly source that information. You didn't validate that using sources like PubMed, or in the hydrogen world, resources like the Molecular Hydrogen Institute. These are people that aren't selling anything, promoting anything. They're just trying to get good information across. And I think, you mentioned everybody says something different. Take, for example, diet. Some people are saying, it's all carnivore. And others are saying, no, it's all vegan. And others are like, hey, I tried one or tried the other, and I had problems. I'm kind of hybrid now in the middle. So what do you guys think? Do you think it's important to hear all the sides and make your own decision, or should you try different things and see how it works uniquely with you? What are your guys' opinions on sorting through this wave of info and finding what works best for you?
Yeah, I'm on. Do you want me to go? Would you like me to go?
Yeah, I don't know 100%. You're our guest.
Yeah, I mean, I like to go through as much of the information and pull back the layers and go behind the curtains of as much of the information as we can find. Then when we find a source, okay, well, what do we know about this source? Who are they sponsored by? Where is their bias coming from? Any of these things. The big one is following the money, simply. And then also, like, just thinking about these two different modalities and hearing people bicker back and forth about what the truth could possibly be. And then there's an element of like following your gut. What is your gut telling you is the better decision for you? Use some intuition, tap in. And then it's a matter of trial and error. I mean, there's no better way to find out if something is good for you or you operate better on it than to play around with it. Whether you're doing an elimination diet through plants or you're doing elimination diet through eating nothing but meat, they're both going to provide you with similar outcomes depending on who you are. Because obviously, if you can have a person thriving and breaking world records for strength as a vegan and doing the exact same as a carnivore, then there's obviously different people that function better with different stimulus and different foods. Like our biology is just so different. So it's hard to tell. So you really just have to feel it out, what works best for you. And then you find what works and keep adding things. And if you find something that doesn't work, well, get rid of it. Trial and error.
What do you think, Shane?
I don't really have anything to add to that. I think that you both covered the point very well. I mean, there is a trial and error. There is a level of energy and trust that you have to have in yourself, and if you don't have that or have the resources to do the testing yourself, you have to find people that you can trust, in what they're doing. And I think when it comes to making a proper decision, whether it's business or your health or investments, the very first thing you need to do, especially when you're researching different products, and especially if you already have your foot in the game, is you got to take your emotions out of it. And that's what I think that what I see happen all too often in this industry, especially in one particular company, that they get really, really riled up and emotional. Go for it.
I was waiting. That was a drum roll.
Yeah, well, I think we all know what company it is, and
You're no fun.
No, I mean I see it all the time with Kangen reps, because they're deep into it, and they've sold a lot of people, and so and what happens with, I think, a lot of people is the same thing that happened to me. I got to, because I had a Kangen machine. That's how I got my start in the ionized water industry, and I was a 4A, I think, getting close to being a 5A. I'd made a few sales. I was actually making some money with it, and then I discovered that I was promoting hydrogen, but I wasn't selling it because their machines aren't designed to create hydrogen. And so I had to make that tough decision. I think one of the last people I sold was to my parents, but I had to make that. And it wasn't even that tough of a decision, because I took the emotions out of it. And I thought, okay, do I want to be loyal to the people that I've sold to, or loyal to the people that I want to continue to help and move forward with? It was actually one of the first sales that I made when I left Kangen, was to one of the last sales that I made for Kangen. We just threw his machine on Craigslist and got him the new machine.
Wow. He trusted you.
He does, still does, and I'm glad that he does, because we work really well together, and that is how I really build all of my businesses, based off of trust, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
No.
I think that's something that gets lost big time in the world of sales, because we've all dealt with the salesperson that's just trying to make a buck and trying to make their commission, and relentless until they do. We've all dealt with the bad salesperson, but there's amateurs and professionals out there, and that's what I like. What I like about the conversation that you have, that we have, is you're very professional in the way that you look at things, and you're looking at it from an outside perspective, which is it's so incredibly crucial. Yeah, trust the science. No, like you said, Clayton, follow the money.
Yeah. Yeah. Louis, for you, I'm like, that's one part of that model that I just don't understand. And I wonder if you have some more intake on that, or if you've been a part of it. I don't know, but the delivery method of the hydrogen in a Kangen machine. Like, I'm actually going to have a friend of mine who's in big, like he sells Kangen. He has building his team, building his perpetual money machine. And I'm going to have him on the podcast, talk about self-development stuff, and ask him some questions about Kangen. Because
are we talking about the mutual friend that you introduced me to? Okay.
No. But like, do you know, Louis, much about the delivery method of the whole micro clustering and why it visibly appears different? And
so it appears different as far as the bubbles and things like that. You see people with a lighter, because you basically have undissolved hydrogen. The bubbles are rapidly escaping, just as if you opened a soda pop bottle. So the real bubbles that matter are actually subperceptible. You can't see them with the naked eye. So although it looks cool, and even our water bottles make bubbles, that's essentially oversaturation. That's more than can be dissolved at the time, hence having pressure and things like that. I know I spoke to somebody who used to sell Kangen, and they told me a story about how the machine used to come with these tester drops, and they didn't work. So they contacted the company and saying, hey, there's something wrong with these drops. Well, there was nothing wrong with the drops. It's that the machine wasn't making any hydrogen. That's why the drops weren't picking anything up. Now there's various versions and iterations of that machine. Things have changed over the years, but essentially people can test on their own, especially at the level of an ionizer where it's not making like 6,000 parts per billion. You can test how much hydrogen is coming out of any given ionizer. Also, there is a mineral component to that too, because alkaline water machines use what's known as AWI technology, where you need a little bit of minerals in order for it to be able to do what it's supposed to do. In fact, if you were to somehow run distilled water through an ionizer, it wouldn't make any hydrogen. Whereas a water bottle uses a different technology, you could, in theory, use distilled water. So I think, as you guys were talking about the decision you come to when you realize certain things, it's a fork in the road. People have to make a decision, and they're going to choose one of two paths. They're either going to dig their heels in, like you said, Shane, get defensive, become emotional about it, turn a blind eye to the data, or they become like yourself, progressive, and say, hey, maybe there's something better. Maybe I've only got half the story. Maybe I bought into all the hype and rah, because there are benefits of new therapies. There are benefits of just drinking more water. And there's a massive amount of benefit that can be had from just believing that I'm doing something that's going to benefit my health. In fact, a lot of pharmaceuticals are only marginally better than placebo test results. So having that, what they call salience, or the belief that this could actually help me, is a huge part of any therapy. If you told people,
a hell of a drug.
Yeah, if you tell people if you drink 2 glasses of orange juice a day, your energy level will double. Anywhere from 30 to 60% of people will report that they feel a doubling of energy if they believe it. And placebo can even come in the form of like vaccination. People have been given medicine in the form of a needle, which wasn't actually medicine. It was just saline, but they reported results because it wasn't just take this pill or drink this shake. In your brain, you're going, wow, I had to get this IV drip therapy. It feels like something a doctor would administer. It feels real. And you're more likely to see a bigger result because of just the belief that the delivery method is there. So I think having machines like Kangen machines that could be upwards of $8,000, when people talk to other people, when they hear the stories of other people and all reporting good things, it makes it easier to justify that decision. And the belief pre-purchase can actually carry through to the results you get post-purchase, regardless if the machine's actually helping you or not. So I think it's very difficult to quantify benefits. Are they real benefits? Is it psychological benefits? Is it that you're just going to feel good no matter what because you just shelled out $8,000? There's a lot more that goes into it, and everybody is different.
Yeah, well, let me share my experience of how I got into it. I got into it through a methodology where I was going in to fix gut issues. And so, doing all the looking at allergies, food sensitivities, looking at blood, all these different things. And then so I got put on this eating protocol to cleanse, right? So it's essentially a fairly bare bones, not a full elimination diet, but getting down to some fairly basics, cutting out all alcohol, cutting out all these different food groups, and then also switching my water to Kangen water and then saying, hey, see how good you feel. Well, no shit, I'm going to feel better. I do wish that I took a little bit of time to reflect upon all those things that were happening very quickly and just sit back and zoom out a little bit and say, okay, why am I actually feeling better? Not to say that it's a terrible machine and doesn't do anything, because it probably is better than drinking tap water if you're drinking
for sure
filtered and whatever, right? But at the same time, to then say it's worth it to then carry forward and pay $5,500 Canadian to buy a K8 machine seemed not fully truthful in retrospect. You know what I mean? And so that part left a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth. Now, do I feel better? Did I learn a lot? Did I heal my gut issues and fix all these other things? Yes. And I'm totally grateful for that. And even for the person that helped me with that, absolutely. Do I wish I took a little bit of a couple extra steps and did a little bit more investigation before buying the machine? Yes.
Yeah. We mentioned that before, Shane, that sometimes just the cleaner water is a stepping stone to other better practices in your life. You're drinking more water, you start feeling better. Now you start going on walks. Now you looking at maybe
cold
nootropic
showers
supplements and
or
other things.
you're supplementing differently, eating better. You're
Yeah.
you know, I spent this money on the water machine, I might as well eat
Exactly.
better too. You know, it is a very good catalyst. You know, going right back to what you asked Louis about with the microclustering and stuff, that to me is, it's the first thing I say is this, it's very good marketing. There's absolutely microclustering. What does that mean? What do you mean by, like, and I'm not asking you, Clayton. I'm asking someone that uses that. Well, okay, what do you mean by that? And I mean, they're going to relate it to the ORP, right? The negative ORP, or oxidation reduction potential. And they're going to say that this water is full of antioxidants. Well, what is the antioxidant? It's not the water.
They'll say, they'll say it's the hydrogen, and they'll say you can see the bubbles. They're right there.
Mm-hmm. And then they'll light it and crackle, and you know, it's a dog and pony show almost, with nothing quantifiable to really back it up.
So one thing I can say about the testing part is I ran my Kangen through just one of those cheap Amazon tester electronic things, and it showed up 6,000 parts per billion.
Yeah, no, because it's based off of ORP. Those meters are based off of the ORP.
The meters, I'll just clarify, because I went down the rabbit hole of buying the cheap one, then buying an expensive one, and then throwing them out or sending them back. None of them work. Reason being, they have to be very specifically calibrated. The sensor itself needs to basically be filed down with like a mild sandpaper every time before using it. The cheap ones on Amazon that have ORP, pH, all this stuff, they will give you a reading, but it is not an accurate reading. And even the one that those are based off of, those are kind of knockoffs of a Japanese brand called a Telex meter. It's about a $600 hydrogen meter. Even that doesn't work. The only true way to measure hydrogen is with gas chromatography. Unfortunately, the drops are good up to a certain parts per billion. So if it's below, depending on the drops you get, and they'll actually say that right in the card, but if you see videos of people saying this water bottle makes 5,000 parts per billion, but really the drops max out at 3,800, they're not giving you an accurate result. Also, we bought a bottle as a tester, great claims. It makes 9,000 parts per billion.
Big square Asian one.
All this. And they sent us a video of this thing dissolving 98 drops. So in theory, that should be 9,800 parts per billion. But they were using 15 milliliters of water, which will skew the results. The true test is meant to be 5 mils of water, and anything over 3,800 is not accurate. So those drops could never really be used to test anyone's bottle, but it's a very effective thing. It's like those old little devices that you put in water, the electrolyzer. Next thing you know, you start seeing black and crap bubbling out of your water.
Yeah, we've seen those.
Yeah, and we were believers at one point. We thought like, wow, look how dirty the water is. But really, that's just reacting with anything in the water, good, bad, minerals. But people have been using this to go around, especially selling old-fashioned RO systems. You know, you knock on the home of a little old lady. You're like, let me show you how bad your water is. You put these probes in the water. It turns black. And then she buys a $4,000 machine when really, yes, she may have needed filtration, but that was kind of deceptive in the way that they got the person around to that. So those kind of practices, I think, have hurt the industry where you have this kind of snake oil and people with magic tricks. You know, the same thing.
Can you tell me more about the two probes in the glass thing? Can you
So
explain?
It's a little rectangle box with two bars. One, I think, is tungsten and one is aluminum. And they run electricity through whatever liquid you put it in. So you set this in your water, you plug it in, it starts to bubble around the probes. And within a minute to 5 minutes, you'll see the water start to turn yellow. You'll start to see things precipitate out of the water. You can see black sludge. There's a legend on this device saying, you know, yellow is like chlorine, green is like carcinogens. Other things could be like biological waste or stuff like that. So when I tested my water here, it was showing like, oh my God, we have, I'll pull it up here. Shane's got it on the screen. This is the device here. It's a scam. Don't fall for it. This is simply reacting with anything.
The reason it's $10.
If you put this in a glass of San Pellegrino water at like 600 TDS with minerals, it will literally make a black foam and go, like, you'll have black soot falling through the water. It's visually disgusting, but really you're just burning the sodium and the magnesium that's in the water, and that's why it's precipitating out. It's not actually an indication of contaminants in the water.
So can that device bring non-deceptive results if you're comparing two very similar products?
Yes, it can. All it can tell you is there's something in the water that's reacting. So in an essence, yes, it can tell you the mineral level by the reaction amount, or it can tell you that, not the mineral level, but if there's minerals present or if there are contaminants present. But essentially that will react with anybody's water. The problem is, how do you decipher the results? It doesn't give you anything quantifiable, but you could start with using test strips. You could have your water sent out if you're really concerned, what the perception of the water is, or what is actually in that. Is it naturally occurring things? Are there contaminants? Also, if you live in the US, resources like EWG is very important, because they will post the local municipal water with a great big disclaimer that says, hey, legal may not be safe. Some of these results haven't been adjusted in 20 years. So there are ways of finding out what is in your water, but that device just simply tells you there's something. It doesn't really bring you any closer to the answer, because everybody's water will react with that device unless it's distilled. And so you could be drinking very clean, mineral enriched water, and it's going to put black foam in that water and make you think it's polluted. So it doesn't give you effect for a $9.99 device. Unfortunately, it's not a panacea. It's not going to give you the answers you're looking for by spending $10 on Amazon.
Just not quite enough information.
Correct. Yeah. Because that reacts with everything, good and bad. It is just telling you that there is something present in the water. Even very low mineral amounts will still cause a pretty.
Take TDS for example. That's another misleading, misunderstood measurement of water.
Yeah.
Because it's total dissolved solids. Some of these solids actually are good, like your minerals, like your calcium and magnesium. Then the rest of them are not so good. But it's, I had this conversation with someone that was just affected by the rain and flooding, and said that his the TDS from his tap water was 109, but the TDS from his machine was 102. I'm like, no, that's perfect, because TDS is misleading. Our filtration leaves the minerals in the water, so it's not going to remove all of the total dissolved solids, and it's not meant to remove all the total dissolved solids. So again, like we've just sat here and talked about things that confuse people that aren't making a career or haven't done, hours of research on different types of water. It's confusing to people. I've been doing it for over a decade, and I know that it can be a lot for people to understand, but more and more people are learning about it. Go ahead.
Can I run a scenario by you? What if you took, you had water coming from your ultra filtration system, right? And you fill up 2 bottles, like say hydrogen bottles, one is yours and one is yours, and then you run the probe thing on it, because the water source is the same. The TDS going into the bottle is the same, so that shouldn't affect which one. It
should be the same result, right?
It should be the same result, but what if 2 different bottles are coming up with 2 different results?
It could be a couple.
Well, I would say that device isn't giving you a result anyway. It's just showing you reactivity levels. Now, if you were to send, let's say you're testing a Kangen and an Alkaviva ionizer, you could in theory send the water, but it also comes down to different types of filtration filter down to different micron levels. So Kangen basically is just chlorine if you get a pre-filter. The Alkaviva is very good, 150 or 250 contaminants removed, right? But it's removing everything and still leaving the minerals in the water. Now, if you go to like an RO system at a much lower micron, it's taking everything out of the water, including minerals, and the unit we sell will replenish those minerals, because we're aware that it's taken so much out of that water. So it's not just as simple as which machine. It's what type of machine, what's the filtration technology, what is the micron level that it's filtering down to. So hydrogen aside, just filtration alone is extremely complicated.
Where I, yeah, 100% filtration is extremely complicated, and there's so many different options. And of course, there's people out there that are saying that there are, like you said at the beginning, Louis, that their options are the best because they just want to sell you their product. But,
that's right.
What you mentioned, Clayton, about like, okay, we'll take the exact same water.
Yes.
And we take 2 different hydrogen bottles.
Yes.
So where I could see if they were the 2 same bottles, same water, same filtration, there
everything different or everything the same.
Yep.
Filtration, the water source and filtration is the same, but you put it in 2 different bottles. Say you take the Echo Go and you take the one that you guys promote.
Yeah.
The only difference should be the hydrogen level. There should be no difference in the actual.
And that isn't measuring hydrogen. It's measuring basically different solids that are dissolved into your water. Where I could see it being a difference is if we took our bottle and compared it to another bottle that isn't the best quality, and there's a lot of these on the market, and let's say it's a bottle that leaches heavy metals into the water, or it off gases chlorine into the water and not out of the bottle, that you could then see a difference, and that actually would throw some validity at that testing product before, with only one parameter that's changed, and that being the bottle. Because it, like Louis said, you start changing the filtration, it's gonna, it will change everything up, right? And then what we really do want to be measuring is the hydrogen. Oh, there you go. That's the off gassing that I'm talking about. That a good hydrogen bottle should have the little hole at the bottom of it, and that is to allow any of it prevents any of the bad gases getting into the water.
Yeah. So in this case, if it was a bottle that didn't off gas, one of the cheaper bottles in the market, yes, in theory, the TDS could be higher after running it, either A, because of the production of chlorine, or B, if it's a cheap bottle, it could be off gassing metals. Now, they'd have to be in a soluble form for you to actually detect that in terms of total dissolved solids. Doesn't mean the metals aren't there. We're very thorough with the testing in our bottle. We've sent it to H2 Analytics. They've done the gas chromatography. And then we also have FCC and international European quality. We also have a heavy metals test showing no metals leaching.
Oh, there is a heavy metal test. Okay, cool.
Yeah, on our bottle, we've got all that stuff. But most bottles, no, they don't want to pay the money to do it. We were fortunate that our supplier is selling a Japanese brand of bottle. And in Japan, both ionizers and inhalation and these bottles are considered medical devices. So for these people in Japan to know, hey, if we're going to sell this in our own country, the first thing our clients are going to ask is where's the testing, because it's very thorough in Japan. So this company already went ahead and did the testing because they knew that would be pertinent to sell their product. In North America, most of the bottles are just imported from China, very little research. Yeah, and you really don't know, and it's up to you to now make claims, but you got to stand behind those claims because they're not telling you anything as a supplier. If you're going to say, hey, this makes XYZ hydrogen, that's on you if you're wrong. Whereas if you have a third-party lab, and that's why we did it, was we wanted to know, if you don't take our word for anything and you don't have to believe anything we say, how could we show you legitimate evidence to not have a bias or a horse in the game, so to speak? And the only way to do that is to show third-party testing from companies that don't have an agenda. They're not trying to help you sell your product or promote your product. They just test hydrogen products. So if you look at products that are very forthcoming with info, we'll send you all the reports we have, the gas chromatography, the heavy metal, we have it all. So if anybody requests it, we have it to send. We brag about it. We put it on our website. It's a good thing. So we talk about it. If you're finding that you're looking at products that are very vague in their assertions, why are they so vague? Because if they really were the best, they would be bragging about that. That'd be the first thing they would say. We're the best, and here's why. It would make it easier to sell that product. So, with the lack of that evidence, it's really up to the consumer to decide. Like you said, do you jump in right now? Do you do a little more research and then make a decision? Because sometimes you can buy something very expensive and realize there may be a better solution. or a similar solution for less money. Unfortunately, people coming into this just want to feel better. They're not scientists. They're not hydrogen experts. It can be daunting for people to get the right information. But like you said, Clayton, at the beginning, take in everything. You're going to hear similarities amongst those people. The similarities are probably accurate if 10 people are saying it. It's in those small variations that either that information can't be corroborated, or sometimes you stumble across somebody who's brilliant and they're onto something and it's just not very well known yet, but they're actually going the right way. So you can still glean good information out of lesser known sources. But in order to know what's what, you've got to take it all in, and then you sort of peel that onion layer by layer.
Yeah, and it's funny to me, being that I've been involved in hydrogen. I mean, it's only been like a year that I've really been diving down the rabbit hole with this, but I know you guys have both been in it longer. But to see a guy like Chris Gethin now in the biohacking space, who, he started out as bodybuilding and then moved his way through other things and into the biohacking space, and now he's having interviews with Tyler LeBaron and thinks he is like a genius and all these, and so that now this community is now coming over to hydrogen and being like, okay, I see you, like let's keep diving in, let's keep learning more. This guy has so much information and he's doing it from such a good place of education and not just selling a product. Like, this guy is a gem. We need more of these guys. And so I think that is, I agree with you. It's a great way to be able to find new sources of information and different perspectives that aren't necessarily limelight people yet.
Yeah. Well said.
Yeah.
So Shane, where do you think this is going to head? I mean, you've been doing this 10 years. Where do you see the next 10 years going in the world of water filtration, hydrogen therapy? That's a tough thing to guess, because a snowball is a snowball. It's going to be a lot bigger in 10 years than it is now. Do you think it's going to get more confusing, or are we going to streamline this?
No. That's one thing that I'm sure of. It will get more, because the mechanisms of hydrogen will be established better. They're still figuring out the mechanisms. There's over 3,000 plus studies, but there's still no definitive answer to it, because I mean, we know how science works. There's a lot of money and resources that needs to go into that actually happening
for the evidence on paper to be able to catch up to prognosis.
Yeah. And I see what I've figured out. The way I see it is, hydrogen's role as an antioxidant is absolutely incredible. But I think where the mechanism that helps in so many other levels is the balance that's restored because of the reduction of the oxidative stress. Because, I mean, again, getting to the root cause of the pH of your imbalance in your body and the acidity, the acidic nature of your body is coming from the oxidative stress and inflammation. But you still got to ask yourself the question, okay, where is that coming from and why? And that's where I do believe it comes down to an imbalance, and that's really what hydrogen is doing on top of it reducing the oxidative stress, is restoring that balance. And that's, I think, where the mechanisms are difficult. Now, for the next 10 years, I think it's just going to get like more and more people are going to buy, just not buy into, because it's not buying into anything. It's just understanding the benefits that are coming with it, because it's complicated because it's still new. But when you really look at it and you start to understand, it's actually very basic. And that's what I love about it. It's getting back to there is nothing in the universe more basic than hydrogen. And therefore, the molecule of H2 is as basic as we can get there. And it gets into the areas that other antioxidants can't, other molecules can't. There's hydrogen in 90% of all matter, right? It's one of the foundational elements to everything. So I think that people are going to learn more and more about hydrogen. I do see inhalation and hydrogen therapy making a huge play, that it'll start more at a clinical level. But as hydrogen therapy comes into play, hydrogen water will then naturally continue to increase in popularity. I think at this point, you know, I'm in sales, but I don't have to sell at all, because you either understand that your water is not very good or you don't. And if I have to sell you on your water not being good, you might want to at least start with a Brita or something like that. You know, you got a lot to learn if you don't realize that our water is fucking terrible anywhere you live in the world. You know, and this is coming from BC. Oh, we got the best water in the world. Okay. You know, it's better than most places, but there's still a lot of crap in our water. And so filtration is a must for most people. And I think that is being understood more and more as people understand, as people are opening up, not only their minds, but their wallets to investing in their family's health through water. A lot of people are going to be like, why don't we get some hydrogen in there as well? And you know, that's where I think it's just going to go up and up and up, because we're in a world with a lot of problems. But for every problem, there is a solution. A lot of people have a lot of health issues that they're trying to deal with, but don't quite know how to or where to go. And that's why I've always been such a big supporter of water, because it's the foundation. And like we said earlier, you know, when you have our products, it typically is a catalyst to then doing other things to reestablish and maintain that balanced, healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, it's the starting of the snowball rolling, just like buying your own chickens.
Right.
Yes.
Shane, I just want to add to your point as far as the hydrogen goes, because hydrogen has so many different benefits. It's not just like the antioxidant. So therefore, everybody will experience something different. I mean, right from the Molecular Hydrogen Institute, these are the benefits that hydrogen has been clinically proven to assist with, this and many more. So it's not just about your gut health, your energy levels, your sleeping, reducing oxidative stress, better hydration. It's all of that. And it could be one of those things. So if somebody's in a state of poor gut health, they may notice the first result being, hey, better digestion, things like that, or I'm in a better mood. But it's not necessarily the hydrogen. If the hydrogen is fixing your gut health and there's this gut-brain communication axis that exists, the gut is then sending signals to your brain, which are then affecting the mood. So it in itself becomes the catalyst for the change your body needs. Now, it helps vision and hearing. If you don't have vision or hearing problems, you're not going to notice anything different in your vision or hearing, other than maybe preventative. It might prevent macular degeneration in the future. But right now, you don't have a fire you need to fight. So people say, what am I going to feel if I start taking hydrogen? It depends on the mode, depends on the device you're using, how much you're getting, what state of health you're in, what problems do you have? What else are you doing in your life? I mean, if you have a food allergy and you don't know it's a food allergy and you're treating it with all these other things, including hydrogen, you may not, see any result because you're not addressing the root cause of your problem. If the root cause of your problem is something in your diet, in your environment, a reaction to phthalates or PFAs or something that's, toxins built up in your system, that is the root cause. If you don't deal with that first, whether you take pharmaceuticals or hydrogen or whatever other novel therapies come out, it's not going to do anything because you're not addressing the real issue. So understanding why you don't feel great, what areas you need to work on, and then looking for modalities that specifically target that. Also, having realistic expectations. I mean, it's not a drug. Doctor gives you a happy blue pill. You feel great for 8 hours and you feel like crap after. So you didn't really
no
feel
more than
great.
4.
Yeah, this is temporary.
You get your timing off on this happy blue pill. Oh, it just became
the wrong happy blue pill. There's many happy blue pills.
Conversation of men real quick there.
Yeah. But what I'm trying to make is everybody's different. Yeah. Everybody stands to see different results. Everybody's expectation levels are different. If you have a bottle once a day and after a week, you're like, this isn't working. And that can happen just because you bought a poor quality bottle. You might try it for 6 months and say, I felt nothing. Doesn't mean hydrogen's no good. Maybe you just invested in a product that doesn't make any.
You haven't even tried hydrogen yet.
Exactly. Yeah. Don't poop on hydrogen because you've never had it.
You make a really good point that I had already brought up actually earlier today, and it's getting the right solution for you. Everybody's different, and because of social media, everybody wants to try what everybody else is doing, and they're not really going within and figuring out what's going on with themselves. But I see this so often with like probiotics. Probiotics are a perfect example of that. There's like millions of different strains of probiotics and stuff. How do you know you're taking the right one for you? Like that's a big question, because the last thing you want to be doing is influencing the bacteria in your gut that you don't need, right? You're just now adding to that imbalance.
Yeah,
right?
That's a good point. That's a good point. We talk about bottles that make water or sorry, make hydrogen and don't. There are probiotics that aren't encapsulated correctly that don't make it past your stomach because of the stomach acid. So there's it's the intricacies, it's the specifics of, like we said, our bottle, it's not an average bottle. It's made a certain way. It's designed to not have the same downfalls. There are probiotics, like I take one, it's encapsulated in a green chlorophyll, which is non-digestible. It also has prebiotic, which is the food that probiotic is going to need in order to live. And essentially, it's not just one or the other, prebiotic, what kind you take, how many strains. That's important because a lot of the strains are similar and you may not have, a good reaction with certain strains, but it goes a lot further than that. It's not just supplementing. It's making sure that the environment for that bacteria is right. They're fed properly, and it actually makes it to the place that it needs to. And that's another benefit of hydrogen too, is benefiting the hydrophiles, the hydrogen loving organisms, which happen to be the good gut health as well. So I think hydrogen's good because it's so applicable for so many areas. There's a good chance it's going to affect your ailment somehow. And then you can sort of dial that in as you kind of isolate what is actually wrong with you. Again, food allergy could be preventing everything, right?
So it literally could be something as small as reducing inflammation.
Yeah, you could be lactose intolerant and not know it, and you could try everything and still never get to the root of the problem because you don't have the enzyme you need to digest lactose. It could be very simple, but it could also be overlooked. And don't assume your doctor's going to know either. They're doing their best, but they don't often have the best prognosis, or they're not up to date or up to speed with a lot of these technologies like common folk like us, because it's just not in their realm of things they deal with every day.
Yeah. I mean, it's a broad spectrum of what they deal with. And so even if you go to a general medical doctor, they're just very general in what they're doing. If it's something specific to your kidneys, then you're going to have to go to a nephrologist, or if it's your brain, a neurologist, you know what I mean? Right. And so the doctors aren't really trained to help you. Extract what's actually going on.
Zoom out and look at other mechanisms, not just their one specific specialty.
There is certainly no cookie cutter answer out there for people, but I can say very confidently that regardless of what you are going through, hydrogen could probably help. At the very least, it's not going to be a bad thing for you. I can say that fairly confidently. There's no adverse effects to having hydrogen. I think the jury's still out on having too much hydrogen. Like some of these tablets and what they're claiming to create of hydrogen content, I
actually wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah, like the 12 ppm, or I think it's Symbiotica that makes one that's just like, it's not only, then now we're getting back into that marketing aspect of it that just is somewhat misleading, because for one, there's only so much hydrogen gas you can get dissolved into water. After that, it's just off-gassed and put into the environment, and it's not dissolved into your water. And like we said earlier, the hydrogen that when you're drinking hydrogen rich water, the hydrogen gas that is helping your body, because that's the hydrogen we're talking about, it's a gas, but that gas is dissolved into the water, and because due to the molecular structure of it, it's invisible to the naked eye. But it is similar to having CO2 in your water. It's just these are healthier bubbles, and it's healthier water for you, whereas CO2 is not going to help your health. It's acidic and oxidizing.
I think the issue with the tablets. Sorry, Clayton. I just
was just going to elaborate on the tablet thing, but I don't know enough about it, so I was just going to ask. So
yeah. So they're basically elemental magnesium. It's like an Alka-Seltzer. You put it in water and it fizzes. So what's happening is under normal atmospheric conditions, the most you can dissolve in water without pressure or anything else is 1.6 liters or
milligrams per liter.
Yeah. So these tablets, because they dissolve so quickly, they actually create a temporary supersaturation of hydrogen in the water. 4,000 or 5,000, 6,000, some companies even claiming 12,000. The problem with that is the hydrogen is at its peak when that tablet first starts its reaction. But you can't drink that water yet because you're now drinking elemental magnesium. Try having too much magnesium in a day and see how many times you run to the bathroom. It is a bowel softener. Magnesium puts water in your stool, so it will give you the runs. Now, if you suffer from chronic constipation, by all means, that's a good thing because you want to go. Yeah. So, but with the tablet, you really want that water when it's at its peak, but you can't drink it yet because it hasn't dissolved. By the time it's dissolved, 60% is already gone, and you can only have so many in a day because of the loose bowel condition. So yes, there's only so much. And again, too, to your point, Shane, how much is too much and how much can you absorb in one dose? I guarantee your body's not absorbing 12,000 ppm in a short setting. We're just not dissolved, or we're not designed to be.
With that excess hydrogen, how is that affecting your digestion, especially because you're getting it through water? I mean, the no adverse effects to hydrogen truly applies when you're talking about inhalation, because it's easy enough. If you breathe in the hydrogen gas, if you have too much of it, you're just going to breathe it right back out.
Sure.
But when you have it dissolved into the water and you're absorbing the hydrogen now through your intestinal tract, we don't know that it's not actually having some longer term effects by doing too much hydrogen in your water. That's why I like that's personally why I like the H2 ionizers, because you're not getting the largest amount of hydrogen in your water. You have an unlimited source of it though, so I can drink it throughout the day, and I know I'm not getting massive doses of hydrogen that may be affecting my intestinal tract now. But if I need,
you're getting like one part per million.
Sorry,
you're getting like 1 part per million.
That's a loaded question, because it really depends on the source water. You want the total dissolved solids, the mineral level to be around 50 to 100 parts per million, and then you should get between 0.8 to 1.2 parts per million, which is in the therapeutic zone. But you're not super saturating it. It's also made right at your fingertips, so you turn the button, push the button, and the water comes out. Whereas with a hydrogen bottle, it's 5, 10, 20-minute cycles. So I'm proactive in my health. I'm not trying to treat anything. If I was trying to treat something specific that's chronic or acute, then I would be using the hydrogen bottle and getting the heavier doses of hydrogen. And this is, again,
or inhalation.
Or yes, 100%, or the inhalation. I mean, our inhalation machine, the Tech Pro 900, is you get multiple different modalities out of it. You can inhale the hydrogen, but you can also make your own hydrogen water. You can bathe in the hydrogen water. You can inhale it through your eyes, your ears, anywhere topically. That is, if you need hydrogen therapy, 100% the route to go.
So I've got something I want to a theory I have heard through like looking through little peepholes of different rabbit holes, instead of going down. So in everything we know about hydrogen and how much benefit we're finding from hydrogen, whether it's topically, whether it's inhaled, or whether it's through water, and then looking at oxygen, there's some people out there that have theories that to live longer, like to actually achieve longevity, we need to have more hydrogen and less oxygen. Now, understanding we need oxygen to survive, we can only survive like a handful of minutes without oxygen, and our muscles need oxygenated blood. But other than that, I don't want to say other than that because I'm sure someone's going to say, no, it's a million other things. But having more hydrogen in there, they're saying because, oxygen creates all this oxidative stress. It causes corrosion. It's everything that degrades in our world it's all has a one common factor, and that factor is oxygen.
Yep. Oxidation.
Exactly. Oxidation.
Rust on pipes, brown on apples. Yep.
All of it. So if we are constantly putting oxygen into our bodies, is that not just aging it faster, as opposed to if we were able to have more hydrogen, or maybe even a different mixture, like with your inhalation devices being able to have a brown gas where you have a percentage of oxygen and a percentage of hydrogen? So where do you guys sit on that for longevity?
Well, I would say just the mere action of burning calories produces oxidative stress. And yes, that is in fact what we refer to as aging. We kind of accept it as a natural process. Everyone's going to go through it. But really, it's just the inability for our bodies to clean that stuff out of our system. So antioxidants help, selective novel therapies, things like hydrogen therapy definitely help with that. But in terms of the oxygen we're breathing, if you look at a breakdown of what's actually in the air around us, it's mostly nitrogen. Oxygen is a very small percentage of what we're actually breathing. And when people do oxygen therapy, for example, athletes, hyperbaric chambers, they're using oxygen and pressure to force that into our blood. But they also have to do a round of antioxidants after that as well, because of the oxidative stress from the oxygen therapy.
Okay.
Hydrogen therapy, you don't need to take anything after it to fix the counter beneficial effects. So yes, there are modalities that say hydrogen only is good, oxygen only is good, the combination of the two is good. I agree with all the above. I agree that all three of those modalities are very important. They can serve as sort of selective things to help selective issues with things that hydrogen benefits, oxygen may not. But again, as you mentioned, Clayton, in a world devoid of oxygen, we don't live very long. No. So this is sort of the natural, the universe has figured this out. We already take it for granted that everything we breathe and stuff like that is already in the right ratio specifically for our bodies. But we also have a lot more contaminants and things around us than we were ever designed to be in touch with. It's not enough that the human body can keep up with purging all of this stuff. And even if it's trying, you could be very lethargic and lacking energy because your body is now working at the normal way it should. It's devoting all of its resources into fighting inflammation, eliminating toxins, things like that. That's why most people, if you'd say, hey, do you wish you had more energy or better sleep? Most people would say yes, because we're all kind of suffering with that because of the toxic life we live. It's in our soap, it's in our water, it's in our air, it's in the clothes we wear. Even polyester, you get microplastics in your body just from wearing sweaters and things like that. So it's a lot more around us than we realize. And Shane used to always say it really well. Everybody has the I'm fine mentality. Just because I don't feel acutely ill today, I'm fine. But maybe I'm on a crash course with Alzheimer's in 20 years and I don't know that. And you can't feel that. Not everything manifests as pain. So sometimes proactive measures are important to not only deal with what you're already dealing with, but preventing future issues as well. And I don't know anything that's as safe as hydrogen that can do both, treat current issues and prevent future issues, especially with like brain and like cardiac function, preventing heart disease, stuff like that. Those are the big ones. Heart and brain related issues will kill you. And they kill a lot of people every year. That alone makes hydrogen something that everybody should look at, just those two areas.
Yeah. I mean, you posted on energy. You went hard on energy there. And because under Truth Performance umbrella is also my one-on-one performance coaching. And in that, the first step we almost always take with people is let's look at your energy and let's get your energy up. Let's get to a place where you feel better more of the time than not, right? So things like sleep, obviously, we need to figure out how to get you more sleep, how to get you better quality sleep so that you have more of that energy throughout the day. So you feel better, so you feel more alive, you can make better choices. All these things, like, it's just such a snowball effect, maybe not a big compounding snowball effect, but just one layer at a time, it gets better and better. And so, yeah, the finding of the inner energy is definitely a big one that we definitely go for, because then you're looking at so many other things as well. Like, okay, What about your food? What about your water intake? What about actually recovering? What about like balancing your output versus your recovery time? Like where can we find places in life to improve or optimize your energy that you have available to you throughout the day?
Yeah.
That's
You
awesome.
can't start working out if you don't have the energy to. And a lot of people say that. How do I go out and go for walks when I feel like I just want to lay in bed and sleep? So that is a great point. That is the basis of everything else. Because without energy, we can't do this show right now. We don't have the energy to go upstairs and make a bottle of hydrogen water. And you feel crappy when you have no energy, right? None of your systems function well either.
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
I was having this conversation with my wife yesterday, actually, about how, like it in the, especially like the bodybuilding industry, you see that, the no days off and you work so, you train so hard. And I'm like,
hustle culture.
A lot of people don't understand in that is that your sleep is equally, if not more important than the lifting that you're doing in the gym.
Yeah.
Like it is so important that, if I had, there's, you wake up and you don't want to go to the gym and you're just being a lazy fat fuck. Get up and go to the fucking gym. This is not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is like I'm sore. I know this. I know I need rest. You're going to do more damage if you go to the gym and ignore that than if you were to just take that day, rest, let your body recover, and then get back at it the next day. It's one of the, I mean, it goes along with there's no one thing. There's no, to a healthy lifestyle, there's not just one thing that you do. It's a combination of other things that make the lifestyle. And that is, again, it's just, there's no one answer to it. Even hydrogen water isn't the end all be all. As much as I'd love for it to be. No, I'm glad that we got this whole conversation in. It leaves all sorts of room for another conversation. Which is
for sure.
The kind of what I wanted from this. I love it. This is,
let's go around the horn then. As we're at an hour here, let's go around. We'll get everybody's final thoughts. We'll definitely do a part 2 to this because time flies when you're chatting with good people that know what they're talking about. Yeah. But let's get everybody's final take. We'll start with you, Clayton. Tell us where people can follow you as well if they want to learn more about you and your final thoughts.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I'm under Truth Performance on YouTube, on Truth_Performance on Instagram. I don't really have a website yet. It's fairly new territory, building the new brand, but I have links to anywhere that you can find for whether it's my media channels or through my booking for consultation calls for coaching, all on both those social media platforms. Like I said, it's all just going to be about conversations. I've got 12 episodes now recorded and just dripping them out there. I've only got 3 out there so far. So like I said, it's really new, but you're really just ramping up how many people and how many good conversations we can get out there. And it's just like this conversation. It's a hell of a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
It is. I love it. I want to, on those episodes that you have on there, that one episode that we did, phenomenal episode. Mm-hmm. However, I listened to that back and I'm like, oh my God.
You feeling sluggish?
Yeah, my wife and I had our baby boy in August, and I think he was only about a month old when we did that, and I sounded like a zombie. I was like listening to it. I'm like, okay, Shane, come on, get to the point here. Wrap this whole sentence up, please. Stop it.
Are you giving a disclaimer for people to go listen because you're self-conscious of it, Shane?
Yes, very.
Sleep deprivation is a real thing, folks. Let's just say that
it is. It's no joke. But clearly, thankfully, I'm back. I got so a little bit of a more regulation and normalcy to my life. But I usually end it with my tagline: if you don't filter your water, you become the filter for your water. But I think today is more important to say, if you don't whether it's now or later, at a certain point, you need to invest in your health. and it is significantly more effective and affordable when you invest in your health now rather than later.
Yeah. Yeah. And we are Tech for Health. You can check out all of our products at techforhealth.ca. You can use discount code WaterGuys10. It'll save you 10% off everything store wide. And again, we also have links to more on hydrogen therapy. Again, the benefits, things like that you can do your own research. So it is a resource guide, not just a place to buy products. Reach out to us, send us a message. We're happy to help, and all information is free. And with that, we'll bring today's episode to a close. So big thanks to our guest, Clayton Diebert, and my co-host, Shane McCarthy. We'll see everybody on next week's episode. And in the meantime, make sure you're drinking clean, filtered water and get that hydrogen rocking. Thanks, everybody, for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.